2019. My name's Juan Brown. You're watching the Blanco Lirio channel, and it's time for an Oroville update. We've had a record-breaking amount of rain here for the month of May, the last half of the month of May, and to date, the Oroville Reservoir is at 894 feet, 5 to 6 feet from being full. Since the 14th of May, when rain began, the reservoir has risen 5 feet, from 889 feet to 894 feet. Currently, the Hyatt power plant has been ramped down to 5,000 CFS as operators want to fill up the reservoir to full here for the month of June. Inflows right now are averaging about 12 to 13,000 CFS. So first, let's check in with Chief Meteorologist Julianne to get these rainfall total amounts here from the book.
Wait a second. 12 to 13,000 cubic feet per second is inflowing. Okay, yeah, we've had a lot more rain and snow up here north of Oroville, so it's going to have a lot more coming down than 12,000 or 12.
Uncle Lirio Global Headquarters rain gauge and weather station at the 3,200 foot level here in the foothills of the Sierra. And then let's go inside and look at the real-time data and see how this hydrology is working at Oroville. Julianne, what do we have for the month of May for rain?
We have 3 inches, 1 inch and 3/4, 1 inch and 3/4.
So 3/4 plus 3/4 is
1.5.
And 3, 4, 5 inches plus 1.5 inches is
6.5.
And what is that?
That's not a ball.
The amount that the level of the Oroville Reservoir changes over a given amount of time or over a given amount of precipitation or runoff depends mostly on what operators do with the outflow control of Oroville. Right now that outflow is still being controlled by the Hyatt power plant. If in the event that they need to, the main spillway is ready and fully operational to spill water out of the Oroville Reservoir. Now let's look at the real-time numbers on the California Data Exchange for Oroville Dam. Here we are today, the 28th, at about 894 feet. Inflows between 10 and 12,000 CFS, up to 13,000 CFS free fleet. Outflows ramped down to about 5,000 CFS. Now let's go look at the monthly.
12,000 in, 5,000 out.
Correction, daily Oroville data here. Looking now at the daily data from Oroville Dam for a 30-day period, 4/28 to current, we can see inflows peaked out at the end of April, close to 20,000 CFS, and have been tapering down until precipitation began at Oroville on or about the 15th of May. Outflows have been held fairly steady, 11,000, 10,000, up to about 13,000 during the rain event, and now ramping down significantly down to about 6,000 CFS to catch that water and fill it up. You can click on any of these blue highlighted fields for further information, further data. So let's look at the inflows. Inflows for a 28-day period. There was no rain here towards the end of April and the beginning of May. This is all just snow runoff. As we peaked out of the snow runoff here at about the end of April at close to 20,000 CFS. Here the rain began in the middle of May. So we're adding rain plus
spike there,
snow runoff to the total inflows.
The snow was all melting in April.
Let's go back 120 days. Look at the whole rain season. You can see the inflows peak out in February where we get the most of our rain. And then here we are at the end of April, no precipitation occurring, yet the peak snow melt peaking out here towards the end of April and then tapering off significantly. And then the last bit of rain we've had here in May. Looks like the peak inflow this year was only 50,000 CFS. Remember when the spillway broke, the peak inflow was, well, let's go take a look. Down in this field here, you can put in a date to get historical data. And here we are looking back at 2017, peak inflow, which coincided right about the time the spillway failed, over 150,000 CFS. Those are huge numbers. Now let's take a look at the outflow data, 30-day period, running at about 11,000 CFS, ramped up a bit for the rain event here in May, up to 13 or so thousand CFS, and then dropping way down to today, 6,000 CFS. Let's go back and look at the whole year, or the whole rain season, 120 days. Here's the outflows for a 120-day period, and here's where the spillway was tested at 25,000 CFS early in April.
25,000, and he just said it failed last 2017 when it was coming in at 150,000, so they only tested it at 23,000. That's when the spillway failed.
Take a quick look at the precipitation at Oroville. Remember, this is just at the Oroville Dam, doesn't represent the watershed itself. For the last 30 days, here we can see the rain that we got in May.
No, the watershed is going to be dramatically different.
Inflows for a 28-day period.
Sorry about that.
Let's go back 120 days. Look at the whole rain season. You can see the inflows peak out in February where we get the most of our rain. And then here we are at the end of April, no precipitation occurring, yet the peak snow melt peaking out here towards the end of April and then tapering off significantly. And then the last bit of rain we've had here in May. Looks like the peak inflow this year was only 50,000 CFS. Remember when the spillway broke, the peak inflow was, well, let's go take a look. Down in this field here, you can put in a date to get historical data. And here we are looking back at 2017, peak inflow, which coincided right about the time the spillway failed, over 150,000 CFS. Those are huge numbers. Now let's take a look at the outflow data, 30-day period, running at about 11,000 CFS, ramped up a bit for the rain event here in May, up to 13 or so thousand CFS, and then dropping way down to today, 6,000 CFS. Let's go back and look at the whole year, or the whole rain season, 120 days. Here's the outflows for a 120-day period, and here's where the spillway was tested at 25,000 CFS early in April.
So it failed at 150,000 and they tested it at 23,000. Think that's a good test? That's the broken spillway.
Take a quick look at the precipitation at Oroville. Remember, this is just at the Oroville Dam. Doesn't represent the watershed itself.
That's an important point. That's only the water that's falling around the dam. We've had tons of rain north, and all this water that has fallen north of Oroville is on its way down there.
For the last 30 days, here we can see the rain that we got in May. Let's back that up for the whole rain season. And again, we can see most of our precipitation occurring in the month of February and then steadily dropping off. This amount of rain in May was a record amount of rain for our area for the month of May. Also available here in the CDEC is river information. Let's take a look at the Feather River. The Feather River near Gridley is located downstream of the Oroville complex and upstream of Yuba City and the Yuba River confluence. When we go back and look at the real-time data, we have outflow and river release numbers. The river release numbers is all the water coming out of the Oroville complex, currently about 6,000 CFS. That's defined up here in the comments, which includes water being released out of the Thermalito Afterbay back into the Feather River. So at the Feather River near Gridley, elevation 92 feet, with a monitor stage of 95 feet, flood stage of 103.8 feet. There was the peak stage of record 100.1 back in 1986, which did result in some flooding. Today we're looking at about 77 feet down to about 75 feet. Here we are local time, and here's the forecast. So it doesn't look like they're planning on spilling any water out of the main spillway over the next couple of days. So that's a full 20 feet of room in the Feather River for additional runoff. Plenty of room. Now let's take a quick look at the Oroville Reservoir watershed, which consists primarily of the three forks of the Feather River, north, middle, and south, which include a series of reservoirs, primarily PG&E reservoirs used for power. These are primarily pass-through reservoirs that have small diversion dams on them. These reservoirs are not capable of storing additional water. They do not have spillway gates. They simply fill up and flow over.
Can't see that any clearer. I was hoping I'd get it enlarged a bit, but that didn't help.
The North Fork of the Feather River, where most of the high flows for Oroville come from, is also PG&E's staircase of power system designed to create electric power for the region. And so reservoirs like Almanor and Butte Valley are connected by a series of tunnels. In fact, this entire river system is connected by a series of tunnels and penstocks that collects this water and runs it through a series of small power plants, all adding up to a large electrical generation capability along the North Fork of the Feather River. But the bottom line is there is no storage capability above Oroville Reservoir. There's no way to stop water from flowing into Oroville. It simply fills up, runs through the penstocks, and flows into the Oroville Reservoir. So what does all this mean? Even with temperatures rising, as this cold weather leaves the area, the peak snow melt runoff occurred back in April, and with the Hyatt power plant running at 5 turbines with a full flow capability of over 16,000 CFS, Outflows out of Oroville will continue to be controlled primarily by the Hyatt Power Plant. Operators are going to want to top this reservoir off right up to 899,900 feet. If they need to, the main spillway at Oroville is fully functional and ready to operate at any time. I talked to DWR and they are expecting a complete report on the performance of that spillway during its run back in early April up to 25,000 CFS. That report should be out in 2 weeks. As soon as we get that, we'll let you know. See you here. To get the latest updates from the Blanco Lirio channel, check your notification setting by tapping on the bell next to the subscribe button.
That's it. Juan gives us a lot of information. I don't agree with his conclusions, but he's a good one to watch to get all the official reports and official statistics. He gets those down good, so stay tuned. Like he said, none of the rain coming from up north of the Feather River runoff is going to be stopped. It's all heading for Oroville Reservoir. Stay tuned. Bye-bye.